Okay, let's dive in. Today we're focusing on a single source, a truly compelling personal story about learning English vocabulary, not just efficiently, but meaningfully.
Right. It follows this woman, Anna. She moved to London, big dreams, but found her basic English just wasn't cutting it for everyday life.
Yeah, the real world stuff.
Exactly. So her journey is less about like abstract study and more about embedding the language into her actual life.
That's what's fascinating. So our mission in this deep dive is to take this story, Anna's personal experiment, and really pull out the universal nuggets, the struggles, the breakthroughs, the methods that actually worked.
Uh-huh. What can you, listening, take away from her experience to, boost your own vocabulary?
So the story kicks off with Anna arriving in East London. She's got aspirations, wants to be a tour guide, actually, but she hits that wall pretty fast.
Yeah, the source paints a very relatable picture there. Her school English. So it's not enough for chatting at the supermarket or, with neighbors.
That moment with the receipt.
Oh, yeah. Not understanding receipt at the checkout. It perfectly shows that gap, right? Between the classroom and just living.
That feeling of a simple word just stopping you cold, it's so frustrating. And for Anna, that was kind of the spark.
It really was. She basically decided no more guessing, no more feeling scared. I've got to learn this and fast.
Right.
And she didn't just say it. She put structure around it. Called it her 7-day vocabulary challenge.
Okay, a whole week dedicated to shifting her approach. What was the plan for those first few days?
Day 1 was all about ruthless practicality. Focus only on the words she needed right now.
Like supermarket words, bus words.
Exactly. Supermarket, bus, directions, how to talk to neighbors. She wasn't learning fancy academic stuff. She was learning aisle, change, exit. Basic survival words.
Stuff for her immediate environment. Makes sense.
Totally. And the key thing wasn't just finding these words, maybe hearing them or seeing them, but using them straight away.
Actively using them.
Yeah. Saying, I lost my receipt out loud, even just whispering, where's the exit? It was about producing the language, not just recognizing it right from the get-go.
That makes a lot of sense. Kind of cements it in your own voice, your own context.
Which leads right into her big realization on day 2.
Yeah.
She noticed she was still, translating everything in her head.
Ah, the internal translator trap.
Yeah. When she thought apple, the Polish word jabłko popped up first. And that step just slows everything down, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So she decided to sort of bypass it. Her method, pictures, simple pictures.
Pictures, how did that work?
She put in images of words she already knew, milk, juice, toothbrush, towel, and stuck them around her flat.
Yeah.
On the fridge, the mirror, but crucially, without the Polish translation.
Ah, so the fridge becomes like a visual dictionary?
Pretty much. The goal was to force her brain to connect the English word directly to the thing, the image. Cut out that Polish middleman.
Clever. Training the brain to think visually with the English word.
And the source just says, quite simply, it worked.
Okay, so she's got this foundation. Practical words, immediate use, visual links. How did she build on that? Get more creative?
Well, day 3 brought in the power of stories. Narrative. Anna wanted the words to, live outside of just lists. To be part of her world.
So making up stories.
Yeah, even really silly ones. The source mentions one about going to the supermarket using her new words like milk, bread, change, receipt, and somehow ending up in a storage room.
Okay.
The point was making that little story, even a goofy one, made the words part of her experience. It gave them context, made them stickier. Our brains love stories, right?
Using narrative as a memory hook. Smart. What other active stuff did she try?
Day 4 is kind of charming, actually. The simple act of speaking out loud, even alone.
Talking to yourself.
Basically. The source mentions her chatting away while making tea, talking to her cat, Mr. Buttons.
Poor Mr. Buttons must have been confused.
Maybe a little, but the principle is solid. Hearing her own voice saying the words, it solidified them in a way that just thinking or writing didn't.
Right, it makes it physical, like exercising the language muscles.
Exactly. Moving from just passive recognition to active production. Then day 5, she tackled flashcards. A classic tool, but she gave them an upgrade.
How so? More than just word and definition.
Oh, yeah. Each card had the word, sure, but also a picture, a short sentence using the word, and an emoji for the emotion.
Okay, adding layers, context, feeling. That fits with the story idea, too.
Totally. It's all about making it richer. And the real twist was how she used them. She didn't just flip through them, she acted them out.
Acted them out like charades.
Kind of. Made faces, used gestures. If the word was nervous, she'd literally bite her nails, say the sentence, "I feel nervous before a task," maybe point to the nervous emoji. It turned studying into a game. More engaging.
Multisensory learning. Connecting words to actions and feelings.
Which flows right into day 6. Listen plus repeat muscle memory. She'd listen to simple podcasts or stories, hit pause, and repeat sentences out loud.
Just once.
Nope, multiple times. The source specifically mentions 3 times.
3 times? Interesting. Why 3?
It seems like it was about really embedding it. Like exercise for her mouth and brain, the source says. Repeating something like, "Excuse me, could you tell me where the bus stop is?" 3 times builds that automatic recall.
Ah, like learning song lyrics. You don't think, you just sing.
Exactly that comparison. Making the sound, the rhythm feel natural, almost automatic.
Okay, so 6 days of this really intensive creative work. Day 7 must have been the big test.
The confidence test, yeah. Time to go out into the wild, no notes, no apps, just what she'd learned. The source focuses on her going to a local cafe to order coffee.
Oh, wow, that's high stakes for a learner, the cafe interaction.
Totally. And the source captures it. "Hi, I'd like a small black coffee, please, and do you have almond milk?" She felt her heart pounding, apparently.
I bet.
But she did it. Used the word she needed in a real situation. Got her coffee. It was this huge personal win. Proof that her methods were actually paying off.
That validation must have felt amazing, a real confidence booster.
Massive. But, the source makes it clear the journey wasn't suddenly over. Chapter 2 moves beyond that initial challenge, starting with something really crucial. Embracing mistakes.
Ah, yes, the classic "do you has almond milk" moment.
That's the one. She made that grammar slip, felt embarrassed for a second, but then had this kind of breakthrough. Mistakes aren't failures. They're proof you're trying.
Shifting the perspective.
Big time. She adopted this rule. Mistakes mean I'm learning. And it wasn't just a nice idea. She made it concrete.
How?
With her notebook of mistakes.
Yeah.
She'd write down the wrong sentence, then the correct one. Then she'd add a little funny drawing, like a cow wearing sunglasses for the almond milk incident.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. And then she'd write a new example sentence using the correction. That notebook became her, quote, favorite teacher, showing her progress through her errors.
Tangible proof of learning through imperfection. Love that. How did this new attitude play out in the real world?
It directly fueled her next habit. Mini conversations. Just one tiny interaction a day.
Doesn't have to be long.
Nope. At the bus stop, in the park, maybe asking for something in a shop, the source gives an example of her helping a mom whose kid dropped a toy. Just a couple of sentences exchanged.
But significant because it's real use.
Exactly. Using the language with actual people, not just studying it. And this led her to what she called her magic method, the 3x3 rule.
Okay, 3x3. What's that?
Simple but effective. Learn 3 new words in the morning. Then your mission for the day is to use each of those words 3 times.
9 uses in total?
Yep. Could be in writing, could be speaking, Words like polite, delay, enjoy. If she hit all 9 uses by the end of the day, she felt like she'd won the day.
Oh, I like that framing. Winning the day with vocabulary. Gamification again.
It shifts the focus from these huge, overwhelming lists to something achievable daily. And this 3x3 rule got even better when she found a learning buddy.
Ah, Lena from Brazil.
Right. They started doing it together, sharing the struggle and the success. They'd text each other using the 3x3 words. The source calls it English tennis.
Like batting sentences back and forth?
Pretty much. Using words like awkward, remind, borrow. It made it fun, less lonely. And the words stuck because they were used playfully between friends.
That shared goal, accountability, community power. Did she still use emotion?
Oh, yeah, she circled back to that, especially on tough days when motivation dipped. She'd physically act out words with strong feelings.
Like jumping around for excited.
Exactly, or yawning dramatically for bored, maybe even pretending to be angry for angry.
Did Mr. Button stick around for that?
The source implies he might have made himself scarce during those moments. But the principle is key. Connecting words to strong emotions makes them way more memorable, a deeper imprint than just repeating them.
Emotion as a powerful memory anchor. And all these little things, the rules, the acting, the friend, they built up.
Definitely. They led to those crucial small wins, like going to a language exchange cafe, actually introducing yourself, managing a conversation, and then someone genuinely complimented her. Your English is really good. The source says she literally danced in her room afterwards. Those moments, even if her English wasn't objectively perfect, they validated all the effort and courage.
That validation is fuel, isn't it?
Totally. She also started broadening her input sources, moving beyond just lessons to vocabulary from music and movies.
They're watching Disney movies.
Yeah, with subtitles on. Pausing, grabbing words that caught her ear. The source mentions Moana words like voyage, brave, ocean, destiny.
Real-world language and context.
And she wouldn't just write them down. She'd try to use them, maybe write a little poem or a sentence about her day using them. It was shifting from studying English to really living it.
Integrating it completely.
And all this constant practice, this confidence building, it all came together at what the source calls the turning point.
The tourist at the train station.
That's the one. A tourist asks for directions to Tower Bridge. Anna feels that old panic rise for a second.
But this time,
she doesn't freeze. She accesses everything she's been practicing, the sentences, the confidence from the small wins, the willingness to just try. And she gives clear directions.
a proper real-world test of functional fluency.
And she nailed it. The source captures her feeling powerful afterward. She realized the vocabulary wasn't just facts in her head. It was a tool to connect, to help.
Okay, so the story keeps evolving. Chapter 3 talks about words from the heart, lessons from the street. What was she noticing then about vocabulary retention?
She had this insight that the words that really stuck weren't necessarily the ones from the 3x3 rule or the flashcards. They were the ones tied to a specific feeling or a moment or a person.
Like
Awkward because she remembered an embarrassing interaction. Or delicious from a really nice meal she shared. Or borrow from a specific conversation with Lena. The words had an emotional or experiential charge.
vocabulary linked to personal meaning. That makes sense.
Yeah, so this led her to shift from words to memories. She basically stopped making sterile vocabulary lists. Instead, she started writing mini stories or journal entries that wove in the new words, even if the stories were totally made up or silly.
Like that roommate story, with ridiculous mess and wrong.
Exactly. Describing the chaos of finding socks, The roommate's reaction, her own feelings, putting ridiculous mess and wrong into that little personal drama made them stick way better than just memorizing definitions. She'd read them aloud, picture the scene.
Using personal narrative again, and she took this outside too.
Absolutely. She developed this habit she called her word walk, just walking around London, treating the streets as her classroom.
Learning from signs and ads.
Seeing grand opening on a shop and learning grand. Seeing a caution, wet floor sign and getting caution. Seeing a book title with escape in a window.
Real life context giving immediate meaning.
The source really stresses this. It was the best teacher because the words weren't abstract. They're right there, seen and felt in the real world. Immediate, relevant.
Turning everyday life into a non-stop learning zone.
She also pushed herself socially, connecting with locals. Joining a book club was a big step. She felt intimidated at first, worried about having enough vocabulary to discuss literature.
Yeah, that's a leap.
But when it was her turn to share her thoughts on the book, she pushed through the hesitation. And she found the words.
What kind of words?
Words like honest, brave, describing the characters of the writing. And someone genuinely said, beautifully said, that feeling of being understood, of connecting on that level, she described it as feeling warm all over.
That validation again, but on a deeper level, expressing complex ideas.
But it wasn't always smooth sailing. She hit another wall later, feeling overwhelmed, like she wasn't progressing. Then she remembered advice from her mother.
What was the advice?
Something like, when you can't go forward, change the path, but never the goal. A reminder to adapt her strategy, not give up.
So what did she change?
She decided to focus more intensely on fewer words. Instead of maybe 10 words a day, she picked just 5. But she dedicated her whole day to them. Words like gentle, trust, struggle, improve, celebrate.
Building her day around those 5 specific words.
Yeah, finding ways to think about them, write about them, use them in conversation. Prioritizing depth over breadth when she felt stuck.
Interesting tactic.
And this period also led to another tool, her vocabulary box, a physical box with small cards.
Like flashcards again?
Similar, but different. Each card had a word, a sentence using it, and critically, a question using the word.
Oh, to prompt conversation or thought.
Exactly. Like a card for challenge might have the question, what's the biggest challenge in your life right now? She called it her conversation box, her little treasure chest. It made vocabulary practice interactive and linked to personal reflection.
That's neat.
She also really doubled down on learning in the real world, like volunteering at a community event. And there she picked up those natural, useful phrases you don't always find in textbooks. Things like, let me help you with that, or thanks for your patience. The real language of interaction, learned by actually interacting.
Yeah, the grease that makes conversations work.
And the culmination of all of this, the stories, the walks, the volunteering, the connections, was this growing feeling of belonging. London, which once felt alien, started to feel like home. Because she understood more, she could participate more, she felt more confident.
Confidence breeding connection. Connection breeding belonging. A virtuous cycle.
Yeah, and that leads into a really interesting phase in Chapter 5, which the source calls becoming English from the inside out.
Inside out? What does that mean?
It started with a specific moment. She dropped a knife in the kitchen and just spontaneously said, oh no, not again.
In English. Without thinking.
Exactly. No translation from Polish first. It just came out.
Yeah.
And that was the first time she consciously realized she wasn't just speaking English anymore. She was starting to think in English.
Wow, that's a huge milestone.
It really is. The language was becoming internal, part of her actual thought process. The source notes she started noticing little English thoughts just popping into her head, seeing a red car and thinking red car, or being in a queue and thinking this line is taking forever.
English becoming family, as the source nicely puts it.
And she didn't just let this happen, she actively encouraged it through what the source calls the secret, talking to yourself.
Okay, more talking to yourself.
Specifically, mirror conversations. Standing in
Yeah.
front of the mirror, asking herself questions about her day. What did you do today? How did that meeting go? And answering them out loud in English.
Focusing on just getting the words out. The fluency, not perfection.
Precisely. And this internal practice apparently became so ingrained that she started having dreams in English.
No way!
Yeah. Her roommate thought I was hilarious, apparently. But for Anna, it was like powerful proof that the language was integrating really deeply, even subconsciously.
That is deep. What about like negative self-talk? Did that switch to English too?
That's another fascinating point. The source gives an example where she spilled tea. Her first instant inner reaction was that critical voice. Why are you always so clumsy? But then she consciously chose to respond to herself kindly in English. Hey, mistakes happen.
Whoa. So she was learning English and practicing self-kindness at the same time.
Kind of a double learning loop. It showed language wasn't just for talking to others, it shaped her internal dialogue too. She also started this little habit, the 5-minute rule.
5 minutes of what?
Just thinking in English for the first 5 minutes after waking up, before checking her phone, before anything else.
It's a little brain warm-up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just to get the English part of her brain switched on gently. She found it helped words come faster later in the day. The language felt more readily available.
That makes sense.
She also worked on thinking with pictures and words, especially when she didn't know a specific word. Instead of grasping for the English word, she'd visualize the concept.
Like if she needed the word ladder, she'd picture someone climbing.
Right. Thinking in concepts, not direct translation. And she did inner monologue walks, just describing the park to herself in her head as she walked, or imagining giving a tour. Practicing fluency silently.
All this internal work, it must have changed how she actually spoke.
Hugely. The source notes she started having fewer pauses when she spoke. She wasn't searching for words as much, and she worried less about making mistakes. The fluency was building from the inside out.
And then came that ultimate compliment.
Yes, at the cafe again. Someone said, "You speak so naturally. Are you from here?"
Wow. To be mistaken for a native, or at least someone totally fluent?
It wasn't about accent necessarily, but the naturalness.
Yeah.
The meaning was clear. Her English sounded like it truly lived inside her now.
Okay, Chapter 6 introduces another really interesting tool, the music of English.
Yeah, Anna had this sort of aha moment. She realized she knew all the lyrics to some Beatles song by heart, not because she'd studied them, but just from hearing and singing along countless times.
The melody carried the words in.
Exactly. She thought, music, that's like a magic key. So she started focusing on lyrics over lists, making playlists specifically for learning, writing down lyrics, singing along constantly, focusing on how the words sounded together, the rhythm, the flow.
So words like imagine, let it be, they stuck because of the tune.
Pretty much. Tied to rhythm and emotion. It turned learning from something that felt like work into something genuinely enjoyable.
And the famous shower stage.
Oh yeah. Belting out songs in the shower. Great for confidence, great for embedding phrases like, this little light of mine, until they felt completely natural to say.
Using songs to get the mouth muscles used to English phrases.
She also discovered rhyme. Remember, if she had a tricky word or grammar point, she'd try to make up a little rhyme or jingle for it, using sound patterns to help recall.
Making dry information catchy, creative.
And she used a song for every mood. If she was feeling happy, she'd listen to upbeat English songs. If sad, maybe something slower. Linking the language to her emotional state again, deepening that connection.
That theme of emotion keeps coming back.
It does. This led to singing with friends, even trying karaoke nights, pushing her comfort zone. But the music gave her a safety net.
Easier to sing than speak sometimes.
Maybe. And even listening to gentle English lullabies before sleep. Just letting the sounds and rhythms wash over her, absorbing pronunciation subconsciously.
Music as this constant, gentle background teacher.
The source really emphasizes that this wasn't just about faster learning. Moving from music to memory made words stick longer, and it added rhythm, feeling, a kind of soul to her English. She even felt her speaking rhythm improved later.
So Chapter 7, English in the Wild, shows her taking all this internal progress and musical immersion back out into the real world.
Right. She went to a street market. Initially, she was still a bit timid, just managed a very pretty, about a handmade journal. But then she consciously pushed herself.
To have a longer chat.
Yeah, with the vendor, asking questions, using phrases she'd practiced, applying the skills spontaneously.
Putting it into action.
And this led to her setting herself a little market challenge, helping some tourists who looked lost find a specific lavender shop.
Okay, another real-world test.
Her voice shook a bit, the source says, but she drew on that confidence from all the small wins, gave the directions clearly, and felt that amazing surge again. She'd communicated effectively, helped someone. Functionality over perfection.
Proving the language works for its real purpose. Connection.
Then another win back at the cafe. Coffee and confidence. Ordering felt even smoother this time. Words came faster, less mental juggling. And yes, another compliment.
Oh, was it this time?
You speak very well. I thought you were from here.
Just reinforcing that feeling of blending in, of the language feeling natural on her.
That must feel incredible.
She started keeping a new kind of vocabulary notebook then. Instead of just lists, she wrote down memories next to words, like stitched the man who sold the leather journal, lavender the group of tourists I helped.
Anchoring words directly to lived experiences. Powerful. And learning from the street wasn't just passive anymore. It all came together in a call with her mom where she spoke only English for the whole conversation. She explained she learned more at the market in a few hours than in a week with books because she lived the words there.
English as something dynamic, something felt, not just studied. This buildup of lived, felt English seems to lead naturally into Chapter 8, the English stage.
Yeah, it does. She saw a flyer, open mic night, and the theme, your language journey.
Oh, wow. Talk about putting yourself out there.
Exactly. Terrifying, but also exciting. Could she actually stand up and share her story in English, publicly?
What made her decide to do it?
She looks back through her notebooks, the mistake notebook, the story notebook, the memory notebook, saw how far she'd actually come. That gave her the courage. She wrote a simple script, focusing on her core message. English is not about being perfect. It's about being brave.
That's a great line.
She practiced it, voice trembling at first, but getting stronger. Then the night came.
Stepping onto that little stage, microphone, lights.
Heart pounding, for sure. But she shared her story. The shy beginning, the methods she discovered, the stories, the feelings, getting outside, making mistakes okay, seeing English as a bridge.
How did the audience react?
They really connected with it. Applause. But more than that, people came up afterwards. Your story is my story. That was beautiful. You gave me courage.
Wow, impactful.
A teacher in the audience even invited her to speak at a language school. And that night, reflecting, she had this profound realization. She wasn't just learning English anymore. She was using it to inspire others. Her whispered thought, according to the source, English is not just what I learn, it's who I'm becoming.
That realization seems like a pivotal moment. Leading into chapter now, sharing the journey from learner to teacher.
Absolutely. The idea wouldn't leave her. What if I could help others learn this way? Through stories, through lived experience, making it less scary.
So she looked at what was already out there.
Yeah, she researched language learning resources online and felt like something was missing. That focus on slow, gentle, real learning, acknowledging the feelings involved.
And that sparked the idea for her own project.
Exactly. Her YouTube channel vision, English with Anna, stories, steps, and smiles.
Catchy name. What was the first step like?
Recording that very first video. Nerve-wracking, voice trembling again, hitting that publish button. Then, silence. Waiting.
Agonizing.
Until the first comment popped up. Someone wrote, "Thank you. I understood everything. Your story is like mine."
Oh, that must have meant everything.
It was the validation she needed. Proof that her approach, her story, actually resonated with someone else. It was enough to keep her going.
So she kept posting, sharing her methods.
Yep. Using stories, connecting words to feelings, adding simple visuals, grounding vocabulary in real moments, all the things that had worked for her.
And did people respond?
They did. The message spreads. Comments started appearing from different countries. She realized it was, quote, bigger than her. She wasn't just sharing tips. She was becoming a guide, maybe even a leader, helping build confidence for others on their own journeys.
That shift in identity again, from student to guide.
But even with this success, it wasn't always easy. Chapter 10 talks about the wall and the window.
Okay, another wall. What was this one?
Self-doubt creeping back in. Her channel growth felt slow. And then she got a really harsh comment. "Your accent is strange." It kind of knocked the wind out of her sails, made her question everything again. That feeling of emptiness.
Ouch. Negative comments can really sting, but there was a window.
Yes, a message arrives, the letter from Brazil, from a woman named Carla.
What did Carla say?
She wrote that she couldn't afford English classes, but Anna's videos, especially the slow stories, were helping her so much. That message just cut right through the doubt.
It reminded her why she started.
Exactly. It was her why. For people like Carla who needed this gentle, accessible, human approach. The doubt had built a wall, but Carla's message was like a window, showing her the impact, the purpose.
That's powerful. What did she do?
She went back to her notebook, wrote down why I teach, listing all the reasons, and then she recorded a really raw, unedited video talking about hitting that wall of doubt. Sharing her vulnerability connected her even more deeply with her audience, and she naturally wove in words like doubt, purpose, message, window, and wall.
That reconnection seems to have sparked more creativity in Chapter 11, the magic of story layers.
Yeah, she remembered a childhood book she loved, how I had stories within stories, and she thought, could I do that with vocabulary?
How would that work?
Her idea was to create a main story, maybe following a character named Mia. And Mia would meet different people along her journey. Each person Mia met would have their own mini story. And that mini story would naturally introduce and repeat specific vocabulary.
Like Mia meets Leo, a street artist.
Exactly. And through Leo's story about his work, viewers would learn words like mural, passion, calm, hope, artist, embedded naturally in the narrative, repeated gently.
Clever. And she made it interactive.
Yes, adding simple questions related to the theme or vocabulary for viewers to answer in the comments. Or just think about, like, what color makes you feel calm? Getting them to actively produce language related to the story.
Making it personal and active for the viewer, too. How did that go down?
Really well. Viewers loved it. They said the words were easier to remember because they were part of a story, and the questions helped them practice speaking or writing. It layered meaning, connection, and emotion through narrative.
Chapter 12 brings in the messy reality of life, finding the flow in the chaos.
Right. Life outside the YouTube channel got busy, family stuff, maybe another job, health things, and the pressure started mounting. Feeling like every single video had to be perfect, amazing. Burnout started creeping in.
Hitting a different kind of wall, just sheer exhaustion and pressure.
She took some time out, went for a walk in the park, and just watching nature, the trees, the river flowing steadily, she had a realization. Learning, creating, it needs to be steady, consistent, present, not frantic and perfect.
An insight from nature. So, what was the new plan?
Small steps, big impact, she decided. Shorter videos were okay, simpler stories were okay, taking rest days was essential, asking for help was okay, embracing consistency over the crushing weight of perfection.
Letting go of that pressure.
And crucially, she shared this struggle too. Made an honest video about burnout, about finding a sustainable rhythm. And again, that vulnerability resonated hugely. People connected even more deeply with the real human behind the lessons.
That leads nicely into chapter 13, realizing it's about growing together.
She really started seeing her channel not just as her teaching, but as a community learning from each other. Reading the comments, seeing the questions people asked, the struggles they shared. She wanted to create a space for more direct interaction.
Which led to the live session.
Yeah, live stream specifically for speaking practice. She created this really warm, supportive atmosphere where the number one rule was mistakes are friends. No judgment, just encouragement.
How does she structure those?
Using stories again, reading simple narratives, asking viewers to repeat phrases, answer questions about the story, or create their own sentences using the vocabulary, keeping the energy positive and supportive.
Building confidence through shared practice.
And she actively learned from each other. If someone shared a great tip in the comments, like Carlos in Brazil, who practiced by talking to his dog, or Yuki from Japan, who learned through singing songs, Anna would feature those tips, celebrating the community's wisdom, expanding the circle.
Chapter 14 brings back that core theme, but on a bigger scale. Embracing mistakes publicly.
Right. She posted a video, and the comments were mixed. Some praise, but also some pointing out genuine mistakes she'd made in her English, or maybe technical issues with the video. Her first feeling was disappointment, maybe embarrassment.
Understandable, but she didn't delete it.
No. She remembered her own mantra, mistakes are friends. She made a conscious choice to face criticism with courage, to see the feedback not as an attack, but as helpful information, like Maya suggesting a clearer explanation, or Tom giving audio tips.
Turning criticism into a learning opportunity.
Exactly. She used it for turning challenges into growth. She went back, re-edited parts of the video, simplified things, got some technical help, and importantly, publicly thanked the viewers who had offered constructive feedback.
Owning it.
And then she made a whole video about that experience called Learning from Mistakes, reinforcing the message. Making mistakes means you're trying, you're learning. Each error is a step forward. Finding strength in imperfection became central to her approach, being real, sharing behind-the-scenes stuff, even bloopers. It built incredible trust.
And all of this, the community, the authenticity, the embracing of the journey, it led to chapter 15, the breakthrough moment.
The email arrived, an invitation to speak at a major online language learning conference.
Wow, that's huge recognition.
A direct result of her unique story-based approach and the community she'd built. A real dream come true moment.
How did she prepare?
She drew on everything she'd learned on her own journey. The plan was, be authentic, share the struggles as well as the successes, focus on inspiring, not just informing.
And the talk itself.
She delivered it calmly, confidently, sharing her story on that virtual stage, reaching thousands of learners and teachers worldwide. The impact was massive. Her message about gentle, story-driven, mistake-friendly learning really resonated.
A real culmination.
It solidified everything for her. The power of stories to connect people across cultures, to teach language, to inspire courage. It wasn't just about vocabulary anymore. It was about human connection, facilitated by language. And this marked the start of a new chapter, opening her eyes to bigger possibilities, maybe writing that book, creating a full course.
Wow, what an incredible journey, just packed with so many practical, actionable insights. So let's try and boil it down. For you, the listener, what are the absolute key takeaways from Anna's whole transformation?
Okay, first, start where you are with what you need.
Yeah.
Focus on words for your actual life right now, not some abstract list.
Right, practicality first.
Second, use diverse methods. Don't just stick to one thing. Pictures, stories, sound, music, emotion, acting things out, mix it up, engage different parts of your brain.
Keep it fresh, keep it multisensory.
Third, active production from day one. Don't just consume, create, speak aloud, even to yourself. Have those mini conversations. Use simple structures like that 3x3 rule to make sure you're using the words.
Make it active, not passive. What else?
Embrace mistakes. Seriously, see them as data, as proof you're trying. That notebook of mistakes idea is gold. It turns errors into progress markers.
Reframe mistakes as learning. Got it.
Connect with others. Find a learning buddy. Join a group. Participate in conversations. Learning together makes it more effective, more fun, and keeps you accountable.
Don't go it alone.
And find your personal magic methods. Maybe it's music, like Anna. Maybe it's walking and observing. Maybe it's talking to your pet. Maybe it's thinking visually. Experiment and find what makes language stick for you.
Personalize your approach.
Be authentic. Share your struggles if you're learning with others. Vulnerability builds connection and trust. And finally, persistence guided by purpose. Know why you're learning and let that fuel you through the doubts and plateaus.
It really comes down to this core message from Anna's story, doesn't it? English isn't just grammar rules and vocabulary tests. It's a bridge. It's a way to connect, to express yourself, something to be lived and felt. So if learning English is truly about more than just knowing words, if it's really about finding your voice, connecting with the world, becoming a slightly different version of yourself, here's a thought to take away with you. What is one small, maybe slightly brave step you can take this week? A step to move from just studying English to actually starting to live it.
It doesn't have to be huge. Maybe it is that 5-minute mirror conversation Anna did. Or picking 3 words tomorrow and trying the 3x3 rule.
Yeah.
Or just deciding to actively notice English signs on your commute.
Something small, inspired by Anna's journey.
Exactly. Pick one small thing and start living your English today.